struck me was what was going on. The Chinese were engaged in underwater exploration for, of course, for booty and power, for jumbo ships. Also, at the same time, they were trying to claim how far the Chinese seafarer reinforcing this sovereignty or whatever issues that they had. But there were a lot of thieving going on, a series of reports. And at one stage, it was being sponsored by the state per se, in the sense, go out, get evidence, South China Sea belongs to us, these ships have been operating, we've been in this area for a long, long time. But it also generated an industry. People were now going underwater, diving, picking up lots of goody things, bringing it. And there was still on, there was also a movement of what they were picking and they were finding in the markets in Europe, Chinese of 5th century porcelain, shard, or for that matter, artifacts, varieties. It became a business model. And I followed it very, very carefully and I said, this is interesting, what's going on, what else is going on in other parts of the world. We also get to hear sometimes, somebody brought up, the divers have brought up a bottle of wine, 200 years old. It will sell for so many millions of dollars. So you keep getting these, but it was not so much in terms of, they were more, as a matter of fact, out of curiosity, out of finds that they were getting down to them, but nothing to relate to that they were to claim a responsibility, nor was it a case of smuggling or etc. etc. We have an instance I'll share with you, where one state has picked up certain things, gold points, and then, out of whatever you will say, not the law, or maybe the law, they returned it back. Right? So this is also a case where you feel that you are thieving something, you find something belongs to someone and return. So series of these things prompted me to start looking at what's happening down below, and the whole discipline of marine archaeology came. First, let us see what is this. What is marine archaeology? Is it different from the archaeology that we all understand? Oxford Dictionary tells us. And let's see what it tells us. Archaeology is a branch of study which deals with the exploration of important things and items that have happened centuries ago. It's very simple. A lot of excavations go on. Indus Valley civilization. Now we are told we're going to have an Indus Valley museum also, trying to recall the maritime history of that period. So a lot of work which goes on into archaeology. Somebody tells us, okay, it is one of those cases that you come across shipwrecks also. Shipwrecks are there, you try to build them up and say this is what, it is like reconstruction of a particular narrative of that time. It is fascinating what ships would have looked like, or how would they have lived on board those ships. Very interesting. We talked about the Chinese ships. China is something to be talked about more often than that should be, but then it is something they bring with them a long and very rich history. They would carry, heard about a disease, and this is particularly among the sailors, mariners particularly in those days, scurvy. That was because of the deficiency of vitamin C. And this is the British discovered, but the Chinese already had carried what we call as flowers or pans, flower pans, that we have at home. They were now putting those on the ships to have vegetables and lemons growing. Because lemon was a good source of vitamin C to overcome scurvy. They may not have known scurvy, they may have known scurvy, but they would have called it in a different fashion, different name altogether, for Chinese name, some name they would have had. But then British tell us then, okay, scurvy is the one which is it, and deficiency of vitamin C, etc., etc. So they were very creatively looking at. So how did this narrative build up? Built up over a period of research, etc., and every country brought to bring out a certain narrative of themselves, about their ancient glory, for who we were. We are now investing so much into Indus Valley civilization, of the port part of it, the dock part of it, the Lothal part of it. So there is so much that you bring in. So the nations invest in archaeology, and here that has become a specialist field. Interestingly, if you go to Siam Reef, Angkor, and those of you who've been there is a challenge. Everyone, there are about 5-6 countries who are investing, and they are also using 4 IR technologies, artificial intelligence, recreating all that has been damaged, because the temples have fallen apart. They're bringing them. It's not that you just bring a brick and put it over there, because you have to hermetically bring them together. So there are a lot of technology in the temple that the Indian government or Archaeological Survey of India is undertaking. Restoration. The word is restoration. We find that there are trees. It appears the trees are as old as the temple. The challenge is that how to manage the tree, because trees have gone through the walls of the temple. Either you have the tree or you have the temple. And yet restoration must go on. I think there's a big challenge, and the survey is not doing enough in Siam Reap in Angkor Wat. I find that fantastic. You go there, and I encourage you to visit, because that's one of the good ideas about how Indian influences have been in Southeast Asia. Marine archaeology, so that to that extent, deals with excavations in the oceans and seas. Naturally, ships have gone down. We know about cities which are down there. We know about Dwarka. We know about Mahabalipuram. But it's unfortunately, during my research looking at the Cholas, which I spent a lot of time on in Southeast Asia, I did not come across a Chola ship. It's not there. Of course, ships were there. They were great powers. They sailed in this part of the world. But we've not invested to get that ship out. Or where is it? I still remember we were struggling to get the motive for our conference. Where is that Chola ship? This conference was on Cholas. But we didn't have a Chola ship. And we were talking about the Chola shipbuilding. The forays into Southeast Asia, but no Chola ship. And all that glory we could not. But marine archaeologists, those of us who talk to them and ask them, well, what is it? They say, we've not invested much into this. But marine archaeology is now gradually picking up a lot of fascination amongst the agencies. We have institutions in Goa, National Institute of Oceanography, and one gentleman, his work is very important to read, and he is working on the anchors on the west coast of India. His name is Sila Tripathi. If you come and Google his name, you'll come on a lot of literature of what work he's done. So marine archaeologists have excavated, salvaged. Word is excavated, salvaged. Salvage is different. Excavation is different. Please, you have to make a distinction. Code of law, was it excavation? Was it salvage? And restored. Restoration is a different activity. Restoration, we are all familiar. We do that, as I mentioned to you in Angkor Wat, it is happening. Restoration down below. Done, but I'll share with you what happens in the case of the Titanic. Various exhibits buried under the ocean and sea, ships wrecks submerged for decades and centuries require expert handling. After they are perishing, they collapse. They'll be eaten up. So you have to be very, very careful. So it's a very, very sophisticated science, measuring up everything, how much you want to put over there. And when we talk about environment pollution, I think we already have begun experiencing pollution of underwater pipe, underwater which sink or otherwise have been left behind because they didn't find anything, leave them behind, or due to accidents or all kinds of things. So seabed is now slowly getting littered with these kinds of things also, which we were trying to engage in exploration and excavation. Marine archaeologists are experts and they take care and protection to protect and excavate and restore vessels and other equipment. So this is basically archaeology, marine archaeologists, what kind of work they do, what challenges they have. Shipwrecks of Mary Rose in Vasa, a war vessel from Sweden, are some of the very important relics that have been restored in this picture, 2016. 5 million pounds for people. Just to get that ship on board. On top and tell us what it looks like. Here you have Vasa warship is undergoing Viking preservation work. It's on. There's a lot of pictures. I mean, we go to those museums, they are told, okay, this is of 16th century, 17th century, that kind of. But for us in India, we talk about, okay, we were a maritime nation, there's a boat, right, on a stone, rock, etc. But I guess we are now told there's a lot of work which is going on in terms of getting the boat out and restore it for display. But it was this vessel. We have all seen the movie. Fascinating movie. We are on the 108 years after that, 2020. 14th April, the largest ocean liner in service at the time of its maiden voyage from Southampton en route to New York City was with at least 2,224 people on board, including a number of prominent personalities, sank after hitting an iceberg. The story everybody knows it. We've seen the movie, and it came to rest roughly about 380 miles, 612 kilometers southeast of Newfoundland in international waters. According to law, shipwreck, I said that time, a shipwreck in international waters is under no national jurisdiction. Since the company that owned the Titanic went out of business long ago, anyone with the right equipment and expertise to lead the ship could go down for a visit and return to the artifacts. See for all. While they were removing all this, they would have done extensive damage. The purpose was not for excavation, was, what could it be? Theft. With no policeman underwater. And it was a crime. But then there was no law to look at. And in the bargain, what happened, several companies went down. There are lots of places available if you go and research into this. Lots of literature available, who all went down, what was the equipment that they were talking about. They'll go down, they're stable of thought, do something on the ship. While leaving, they put it out, damage what it is, or they left the submersible down to the only. So there is a lot of, if I may call it, a debris of sorts which is around this Titanic. And enormous amount of damage would have been done by now. With discarded equipment, damage due to human activity, this is self-explanatory. Ship would have been eaten up by microbes and have damaged the entire metal with ice. There's a variety of things where, it's marine growth which has happened. Or one could say these days we sink ships to play. The ship is clean in terms of those chemicals or asbestos things are there. We sink them down to create break the waves to come in. So this is a variety of things that shipwrecks are used. Or sometimes, of course, the Navy does it too often. They take the ship out, it goes down. I just want to raise a question. Sinking a ship is a crime. Interesting things are going to come up. We talk about Convention on the Protection of the Earth applies to all traces of human existence having a cultural, historical, and archaeological character which have been underwater for at least not those catches 100 years. And there's plenty. 15th April, Titanic wreckage protected the nation. So after 100 years, there was some realization that we had to do it, and that's why they've been there for 100 years. That whole time period of 100 years comes in and UNESCO. So this is fair, I guess. I'll just share with you ancient Varna. These are all pictures picked up from the web. Will we get underwater marine tourism in the near future? A commercial activity? A business? I guess it is. It should be. I mean, there are plenty of things to see. They call treasure salvage to extend salvage operations beyond country's jurisdiction to deeper and less. I mean, this is going to take us into some challenges which will come in the form of where is the body of law, how do you unclosses it sufficient enough, do we need additional protocols? I think this is a subject, not that we are talking something new. I think there is a debate already going on, and we hope that such debate will encourage a body of law to emerge as far as India is concerned. Because we don't see that much existing. So, China has emerged, as I said, in the contiguous zones. Now, how do we manage that? We encourage archaeology, cultural connections, soft power. What law will come? Will it be a diplomacy, an exercise in diplomacy? Would it be an exercise in law? No, you cannot. This is something which we have, like, the Chinese have come here. Now, this is also a way that you build up. Like I said, we don't have a Chola ship. We want to promote ourselves that we are a maritime nation. For British, we talk about it. It appears in our a whole lot of speeches, right, in our text. But then there is no evidence to support lots of it. Like Chola ship is still not there. China is determined to become leader in marine archaeology. Huge investments inspired by the actions of illicit treasure hunters balancing Chinese heritage from international waters. And shipwreck That plays perfectly with geopolitical identity projected by China. That is my Belt and Road Initiative, my sovereignty issues in South China Sea. So there is a multiple agenda when they engage on Germany. It is state sponsored, investment comes in, and also there are private operators to do that. I think ocean and seas are the museum. There will be so much down below. We have really no idea. Hunting for treasures of sunken ships is a big business these days. Millions of dollars. But do we have the technology? We have the technology, which is totally clear. Where is the law? What about the law? Speculation about the value of content of the shipwreck, you saw that. I gave you some idea about restoration itself for 5 million pounds. When you bring it up, that wine bottles 200 years old or 2000 years old, fetched a huge amount of money. It's like, convince your colleagues that you won't be proud of to keep it. Then we have San Jose, Spanish galleon sunk by the British ship 300 years ago. Its content may be worth up to 17 million. I think this encourages, the money encourages a lot of treasure hunters to go down. The US company found 17 tons of coins off the coast of Gibraltar and transported them to the US. I went down, I picked it up, mine. What is mine is mine, what is yours is also mine. Let's take it. Order to give back to the hall and receive it $500,000 coin. $500,000 coin, that would have been. After all, when they were transacting, they were not transacting in electronic. There was no RTGS, right? There was no iPass, right? They were carrying this bullion. They were carrying these coins, transactions. That was the trading. And so the government, they had to return it back. So here again, it is not purely law. There must have been a lot of diplomacy. And when you go to law, we always must remember that. When diplomacy has failed. That means diplomacy both at the state level or at the bilateral level. Between, I have a fight and I say, okay, can we resolve it? We bring in third party. Before arbitration, we say, okay, can we resolve it? We resolve it, fair enough. If not, okay, let's go across to the court of law. But before that, all that diplomacy at different levels has failed, and then only we will look. So here I think the issue was more of diplomacy than anything. I think we have to keep in mind law, yes, at disposal. Now, the nitty-gritties of law, I'm going to request my colleague, Dr. Manmohan, to take on from each article. Your next word. All yours.
Thank you.
You want
No, I
okay. Thank you.
I developed my interest in this subject out of a vacation in Mauritius. I was in Mauritius and see such a small country, and they have such wonderful marine tourism provisions there. Laws, guidelines are there in place. Safety, security, hygiene laws are there very much in place. So there was a tour package which took me 150 feet below the Indian Ocean to explore underwater cultural heritage around Mauritius. And I was very excited, never been in a submarine like these Navy officers. So first time I got into a submarine in Mauritius. And it took me 150 feet below the Indian Ocean. What I saw inside an aquarium in my house, I actually saw it on the ground. The lovely colored fishes. And we kept on diving down, and they took me to a shipwreck site. They told me that this ship had met with a collision with another fishing boat, and it was damaged to the extent of total loss. So they finally sunk the ship. And look at their tourism skills. They are still generating revenue out of a ship at total loss by creating underwater cultural heritage site out of it, taking tourists all across the world into that shipwreck site, and we were literally taken in and out, round and up, and passenger 600 pounds. Per passenger 600 pounds. And there was a huge queue behind me, long queue. People waiting to take this submarine trip. They just had 2 submarines. It was engaged from morning 7:30 to evening 6:30 till it gets dark. See the amount of revenue that was generated. India has a coastline of 8,118 kilometers today, as the latest report of surveyors and hydrographers. The 7,516 kilometers has now been increased because of inclusion of various islands. 8,118 kilometers. We had so many wars at our coast. Ships came in, ships went. We had so many ancient cultures. We know about Dwarka. Mahabalipuram. There could be more. There could be more cities on the Indian coastline which have submerged. Various port cities. Are we doing anything about it? Except for a few scuba divers going down up to 20 meters, 30 meters at the max. We have laws for archaeological sites over the ground. Has anybody thought if these laws could be extended underwater also? It's the same thing. The definitions are same. The constituent of the laws are the same. The implementation procedure would be the same. Maybe the agencies would be different, implementing these laws over the land and under the water. Can't we extend our existing laws by simple protocols? Nobody is asking you to change the laws or bring in a new act. As Dr. Sakuja rightly said, can't we bring in protocols? Can't we to our archaeological laws that exist for archaeological sites over the ground? It's something to be thought. And I request all of you law students, law researchers, give it a thought, and this is a very important area of research in India. And I think we as a university can draft model laws and push it, vet our existing laws and push it to the legislature to be implemented. So that is why, though this topic literature is very limited, literature is limited doesn't mean that we don't study. No, literature is limited means we create our own literature through research, through empirical studies. We support our research with empirical studies. That's why studying underwater cultural heritage becomes extremely relevant for all of us sitting here. Yesterday, as Captain Parmar said, our Admiral also said that Law of the Sea Convention 1982 is the constitution of the oceans. We know it's as huge as our Indian constitution. And just see 2 articles only. 2 articles, Article 149 and Article 303 have some reference to archaeological and historical objects found at sea. So let's just run through these 2 articles. Article 149 says archaeological and historical objects in general. All objects of an archaeological and historical nature found in the area. Now you see the limitation here is from the very content of the article to the area only. Shall be preserved or disposed of for the benefit of mankind as a whole, particular regard being paid to the preferential rights of the state or country of origin, or state of cultural origin, or the state of historical and archaeological origin. So everybody's rights are being determined. Who shall have what is the precedence of rights in accordance to the Law of the Sea Convention in terms of which country will have right of preemption. Article 303 talks of archaeological and historical objects found at sea. States have the duty to protect objects of an archaeological and historical nature found at sea and shall cooperate for this purpose. So it is left to cooperation between states. And this is again a very big ambiguity in the legal parlance. What if the states don't cooperate? International law is not binding or mandatory as municipal law. It is entirely, cooperation is entirely a voluntary terminology. So what happens in real terms is the issue for us to think. Why this use of such voluntary terms like cooperation, etc.? All those of you who are privy to the background of signing of this 1982 convention, please note it was a compromise convention. It was a compromise convention. So you have the common minimum program of agreement between nations incorporated into this convention. Wherever there was disagreement, aggression, dislike, all those clauses and terms were thrown out. What everybody program, this convention incorporated those terms and conditions, and therefore it's called a compromise convention. Therefore there could not have been a mandatory term like shall within this clause. Reaping benefits mutually agreeable based on a principle of cooperation. In order to control traffic in such objects, the coastal state may, in applying Article 33, presume that their removal from the seabed in the zone referred to in that article, we are talking of the contiguous zone here, without its approval would result in an infringement within its territory or territorial sea of the laws and regulations referred to in that article. It will be treated as an infringement. I come from outside. I give a damn. It's my things, I pick it up, I walk out. Do we the technology to monitor this? As smaller nations, I am talking. As technologically on the part of development nations, I am talking. Can we compete with very advanced nations who have underwater technology to deal with these issues? India is a pioneer investor in the area. Till today we have not explored our own manganese nodules available because we don't have the technology. We are dancing around in the club of pioneers. Oh, we are a pioneer investor. What have we done? What have our legislators done? What have we as students, researchers, scholars in the domain have done? Nothing. We are just sitting in status quo position. First of all, because we are not aware what to do. We do not have adequate knowledge where to look for. And we do not have empirical data support to propose what to do. You may disagree with me. I am very strong in my opinion, so what I state is my opinion. You are free to disagree because as defense lawyers, anybody can disagree with me. But it's my duty to submit before the court, and you are the people's court to me today, so I am making my submissions. Nothing in this article affects the rights of identifiable owners, the law of salvage, or other rules of admiralty, or laws and practices with respect to cultural exchanges. There is an exclusion clause. This article is without prejudice to other international agreements and rules of international law regarding the protection of objects of an archaeological and historical nature. So this is the cover clause that comes in, which paves the way for the 2001 Convention on the Protection of the Underwater Cultural Heritage by UNESCO. This was drafted on 2nd November 2001. It was effective 2nd January 2009. There are 63 signatories. India is not a signatory. And I don't find any reasons why India should not be a signatory to a convention so useful to India except for political reasons. Is there any other reason, sir? You as custodians of the domain would highlight.
This is beyond our pay grade. You'll have to ask the parliament.
That's the issue. You know, India, there are various conventions which is actually very useful for India. But the vote bank does not relate to the very domain. So our parliament says, देखेंगे, कर लेंगे. अब देखो 2005 से piracy bill pending था. What happened? It went on dancing up and down till our foreign affairs minister, external affairs minister, Mr. Jaishankar introduced it in the parliament on January 19th of 2020 again. And what prompted that? Our civil engineer from Chhattisgarh with his wife was on deck, a Hong Kong flagship, which was hijacked by Nigerians. That prompted it. So we are very reactive. So what I feel as a very passionate academician and lawyer of this domain, that possibly somebody will come and take away some things from our underwater Dwarka, something very expensive will go, and then possibly we will be pursuing for theft and robbery, etc., etc. We are very reactive in India. Our legal system is very reactive. We need to be proactive and preventive. Let's see what the UNESCO Convention says. Though India is not a signatory, but it's important we understand, because you as stakeholders can influence the government at some stage. We had a Law Commission member and National Security Advisory Board member, Dr. Vimal Patel, here yesterday. So all of you now have an access to him, so you could push him on. The General Conference of the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization meeting in Paris from 15th October to 3rd November 2001 at its 31st session. Please see the acknowledgements that have taken place and ask yourselves, are these useful for India? India has so much cultural heritage. Won't signing this convention be useful for India? Keeping in mind that when India signs and ratifies this convention, India will have to harmonize its domestic legislation. And that would be the point of ignition for more research, development with matters underwater along India's coastline. Acknowledging the importance of underwater cultural heritage as an integral part of the cultural heritage of humanity and a particularly important element in the history of peoples, nations and their relation with each other concerning their common heritage. Don't we have a right to know? So many different civilizations, races have come to India. Don't we have a right to know what happened? If we are able to bring up all these resources from underwater, don't you think it will throw a lot of light on various issues which are creating differentiation today? Maybe those strains of differentiations, qualitative differentiations, that is making the people of our nation fight and quarrel with each other, may be wiped out. Maybe we may be linked to a common heritage. We all are brothers and sisters. And with evidence, because this underwater proofs will act as evidence of our common heritage. Realizing the importance of protecting and preserving the underwater cultural heritage, and that responsibility therefore rests with all states. I was reading about Kumbhahar and Mahabalipuram. Because these sites are not protected under legislation by the government, there is a lot of destruction and decay taking place. Kumbhahar was a port once upon a time. Mahabalipuram was also a port. Because of the lack of protection, many things have washed away, been broken, destroyed, shattered, and with no point of return. You can't restore those. They are gone. They are broken, they are destroyed. Who is responsible? We, the people of India who has given to ourselves the constitution and the legislature. So shall we do something in this domain? We have to do something. Noting growing public interest in and public appreciation of underwater underwater cultural heritage. Convinced of the importance of research, information and education to the protection of underwater cultural heritage, the United Nations has realized that. It's time we as people of India realize this. Convinced of the public's right to enjoy the educational and recreational benefits of responsible, non-intrusive access to in situ underwater cultural heritage, and of the value of public education to contribute to awareness, appreciation and protection of that heritage. We have got that this carbonating information of 9,000 years ago the Dwarka civilization existed. Carbonating proves that. Don't we need to go and see it? I think the Gujarat government has planned to start scuba diving to Dwarka site. And the Dwarka port authorities are going to organize it.